The phospholipid bilayer. The phospholipid bilayer makes up most of the cell membrane and helps to protect the cell by keeping some kinds of molecules from entering the cell. Let's start by breaking down the words phospholipid and bilayer. The prefix phospho refers to the phosphate group that makes up part of the phospholipid bilayer. Lipids make up the other part of the phospholipid bilayer. Lipids are fatty acids. Think oils and fats like you might use in cooking. Lipids are insoluble in water, making them an ideal part of the cell membrane. Bilayer literally means two layers. There are two layers of phospholipid molecules in the phospholipid bilayer. The phospholipid bilayer is made up of molecules that look like this. The top part is called the head. The head is hydrophilic. Hydrophilic literally translates as water-loving. The hydrophilic head is polar, so it is attracted to water and will be pulled in the direction of the water molecules. Remember earlier when I mentioned that part of the phospholipid bilayer is made of a phosphate group? It's the head part of the molecule that's made of a phosphate group. Phosphate groups refer to structures that are made of a phosphorus atom and 4 oxygen atoms. The bottom part, called the tail, is hydrophobic. Hydrophobic literally translates as water-fearing. The hydrophobic tail is nonpolar, so it is repelled by water and will be pushed away from the water molecules. The tail of the molecule is made of fatty acid chains. This is where the lipid in phospholipid bilayer comes from. Because the tails are nonpolar, polar molecules are unable to pass through the phospholipid bilayer. So how do these molecules form the phospholipid bilayer? Well, the cell is surrounded by fluid. This fluid is comprised mostly of water. The molecules that make up the phospholipid bilayer align themselves so that the hydrophilic heads are facing the water, and the hydrophobic tails are facing away from the water. But this only accounts for one side of the cell membrane. What about the part facing the inside of the cell? Inside the cell is cytoplasm, which is also made mostly of water. Remember how I said bilayer means two layers? A second layer of phospholipid molecules will arrange themselves so that the hydrophilic head is facing the cytoplasm. The hydrophobic tails of the second layer are then facing the hydrophobic tails of the first layer. Thus, the molecules form this structure, with the hydrophobic tails being forced into the middle and the hydrophilic heads being pulled to the outside. A little confusing? Well, think of it like this. Let's say the silver magnets represent fluid with a high water content. The black magnets represent the phospholipid molecules. So you've got the fluid on the outside of the cell, and a chain of phospholipid molecules. The hydrophilic heads are attracted to the fluid, like these magnets are attracted to each other. Now remember, on the other side of the phospholipid bilayer is more fluid. All the hydrophobic tails are facing it right now, so they won't go together. There needs to be a second chain of phospholipid molecules. The hydrophilic heads on this chain are attracted to this fluid, and the hydrophobic tails are pushed away. We end up with a phospholipid bilayer. On each side of it is fluid, and in the middle are all of the hydrophobic tails. So to recap, phospholipid molecules have a hydrophilic head and a hydrophobic tail, which is why they naturally arrange themselves into a double layer. The phospholipid bilayer is part of the cell membrane, and the nonpolar nature of the tail of the molecule blocks polar molecules from entering the cell. Thanks for watching!